Hello there. Yeah, I'm not seeing the monitor on the camera very well, so because I'm trying to work with the lighting a little bit so you get to see me a little better. Uh, and I'm sorry if you're eating right now, uh, because seeing me is not conducive to good appetite. But I wanted to come back with a little something here. In the intro video to this channel, I mentioned that I watch quite a few reaction videos on YouTube, especially music reactions. A lot of the ones I watch have young, and here the word young is relative. Remember that I'm an old fat man. But they have young women in them. You know. And I particularly like those not because, old lecherous old goat looking at the girls, but if I go back into my own history, when I was 9 years old, I wanted to play the drums. My dad got me a drum, snare drum set out of Sears and Roebuck. Came with a little cymbal that actually sounded more like a Chinese gong, and sticks and brushes, snare drum, not the whole drum set. The whole drum set I got for myself later. But fifth grade, then I enrolled in band. Well, I went to a very small elementary school. There were only 4 kids in my class. Okay. And we were getting a student teacher. We were 30 miles from the district offices and the main schools. And we were getting a student teacher that they'd brought in 6th grade, and a different one. But both of them had the same problem. They apparently were not actually preparing to be band teachers. They knew some band instruments, but like 5th grade, the guys seemed to know brass, but if you played woodwinds or percussion, you just made your own way the best way you could. The guy 6th grade, he seemed to know a little less about brass, a little more about woodwinds, and still nothing about percussion. So going to 7th grade now, I was going to be going to a bigger school, but I had pretty much kind of in my little kid mind, 12 years old, I had pretty much decided that, well, I'm not going to get any help out of taking band. I'm just going to end up teaching myself the drums. That's the only way I'm ever going to learn. But my aunt talked me into giving band one more year. I will bless my aunt to the day I die for that. Because my 7th grade band teacher took a personal interest in me. Not just in catching me up to where a 7th grade drummer should have been, having had 5th and 6th grade band, but broadening my musical horizons. Primarily, up to that point, I was familiar with the country music my parents listened to most of the time, some old vaudeville music that my mom had around that she listened to now and then, and the rock and roll music that came on the Ed Sullivan Show. The Beatles, the Dave Clark Five, the Rolling Stones, the Searchers. And my 7th grade band teacher, Larry Luty, I'll call him by name. I'll call him out by name because he deserves it. He broadened my music horizons. And one of the ways he did that, to help me get caught up, he got me, of course, this was before we had video. But he got me a little booklet from the Ludwig Drum Company. I don't know if it cost him anything or if Ludwig just gave him away free, but he got me the little booklet from the Ludwig Drum Company that showed in detail, photo by photo, how to play the 13 drum rudiments. The guy playing those 13 drum rudiments was Joe Morello in the pictures. Mr. Ludi also, by that, got me to listen to, who was Joe Morello? Why was he so good? And that got me to listen to the Dave Brubeck Quartet because Joe Morello was their drummer. That got me interested in jazz because if you haven't heard the Dave Brubeck Quartet, you should. And you'll see reaction videos as well as regular videos of them on YouTube for, usually they're for Take 5, which was their biggest hit. But one of these days, I'm going to come back on with maybe Unsquare Dance or Blue Rondo a la Turk or Kathy's Waltz. They've got some great music, and of course, they're all dead now, but because their big heyday was the 50s and 60s, but they're wonderful. And there went my extra light, so I hope you can still see me, and now I can see the monitor. But when I watch these reaction videos, because of that training and because in high school then I took music appreciation, music theory, as well as band and choir, and I developed a belief that I still carry to this day, that music is first and foremost an expression. First, the composer expresses themselves. Then the performer adds their own spices to it, and the listener adds theirs too. This is why we still listen to great music. Beethoven 200 years later, Mozart, Chopin, Tchaikovsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, on and on and on. Now, the classical composers, the later classical composers like Gustav Mahler or Edgard Varese, who for some people seems a little weird, but he's pretty good, or Anton Dvorak. We listen to this music and it goes forward from there. We're still listening to bluegrass from the 1920s, 1930s. We're still listening to rock and roll from the 50s and 60s. In fact, I see a lot of the reaction videos covering that. And we do that because that music is not only the composer and performer's expression, it's our expression. I said in the intro video, we make our own music. Well, we also make our own music out of other people's music by how we feel it and how we respond to it. That's where I mentioned some of the reactors by name that I like. I mentioned one that I said I wasn't sure I could pronounce her name and didn't want to try, but let me do this. There's her channel. Okay? This girl is 17 years old. I believe she said she was Italian. She does have some kind of an accent anyway, but her English is fluent, so it's not a problem. I love watching her react to music because it reminds me of me at her age. Heck, it reminds me of me at my age. Because when she reacts to a song, the first thing is you see she is reacting, complete visceral, emotional reaction. It's making her move, it's making her dance, it's making her, and the facial expressions, and you can see she wears the emotions on her sleeve that she gets from that music. Once the song's over and the emotions have kind of backed down some, then she will give you an analysis that's basically worthy of a music theory class. So she knows, she has the head knowledge. She is a musician. I think she plays guitar. She has the head knowledge, but she still has that joy of responding with the emotions first. Add your own spices, season it the way you want it. And that's what we as listeners really do. And that's why I enjoy her channel and some of the other women so much. I love the women because most of them do respond viscerally first. I was watching one, she had never heard Lou Rawls before, at all, any song. She was reacting to You'll Never Find Another Love Like Mine. And the instrumental opening came in, and you could see she was already getting into it. Well, I'm a long-time Lou Rawls fan and very familiar, and I was sitting there just thinking, just wait. Wait till Lou opens his mouth. And sure enough, exactly what I expected. You'll never find, and whammo. She was like just liquid running out of the chair, melted completely. It was so just beautiful, entertaining, but beautiful in the completely emotional, visceral reaction to the music. And that's where we get joy. I said this channel was about helping us find things to bring more joy to life. I did mention music, I did mention art, I did mention drama, I did mention literature, I did mention comedy. But the thing is, no matter what we're using to try to bring that joy to life, joy is an emotion. And if our first reaction isn't emotional, then we're not adding joy. We're adding thought. Thought is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with thought. But to add joy, season that music, that art, that drama, that comedy, that literature with your own seasoning. Let your emotional reaction to it flow. Let it become your expression.